You love Dungeons & Dragons. Now, experience the ultimate way to play, D&D Beyond. Take up the mantle of Dungeon Master to add friends to your campaign. Enable content sharing so that the entire party can access your books and content. Then, after you've noted who didn't bring snacks, unleash unspeakable terrors on them using the Encounter Builder and Combat Tracker. Ah, here we go. You never bring chips, huh, Dave? You get the gelatinous cube. Classic. D&D is for everyone. D&D Beyond makes it easy.
Welcome back to D&D Beyond. And you know that on the show, I love to talk to people and steal their secrets. But there are ways to do that in the world of D&D Beyond, or of D&D, with particular supernatural efficiency. And to talk all about that, please welcome performer, podcaster, game designer, and co-DM for the upcoming season premiere of Rivals of Waterdeep, Eugenio Vargas. Hi, how you doing?
Hi, hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Our subject, of course, is going to be the Phantom Rogue, about which you know a thing or two that I'm hoping you'll share with us. I have never gotten to play one of these. This is a subclass introduced in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, which takes the roguish ability to nab things here and there and amps it up with some supernatural deathly flavor. So just to start us off, why Phantom Rogue? What makes it fun?
I love the Phantom Rogue because it's, for me, and one of the reasons I chose it for Kent, my character in Rivals, is because I think it has a really, really excellent blend of very cool narrative role-playing opportunity features, and then features that just give you more handfuls of dice to roll as a rogue, which, let's be honest, is what we love, and half of the reason we pick rogues is to roll all them d6s.
There's a beautiful meta quality where it's like rogues have got all the shiny things and also all the shiny math rocks. It's really just
right, exactly. I love it. Yeah, and this just gives you more, so yes, please.
Absolutely. Let's see. The basics, the what is on the Phantom Rogue. I'm just going to read directly from Tasha's for a second. Many rogues walk a fine line between life and death, risking their own lives and taking the lives of others. While adventuring on that line, some rogues discover a mystical connection to death itself. These rogues take knowledge from the dead and become immersed in negative energy, eventually becoming like ghosts. Thieves' guilds value them as highly effective information gatherers and spies. And it continues on to the ways that you might flavor or decide that you came into abilities like this. Obviously, rogues will pick up their subclass at 3rd level, so you've started on your journey before this happens. But once you do, let's see. Let's look at those actual features of what you can do as a Phantom Rogue. At 3rd level, you get Whispers of the Dead. Echoes of those who have died cling to you. Whenever you finish a short or long rest, you can choose one skill or tool proficiency that you lack and gain it as a ghostly presence shares its knowledge with you. You lose this proficiency when you use this feature to choose a different proficiency that you lack. Tell me about Whispers of the Dead.
So on the face of it, right, rogues already get more proficiencies than most classes in terms of skills, expertise, and now we are also getting more proficiency, which just, the Phantom is so great because there's just more of everything. I love this feature. I think this feature is very cool. If we talk about it on the meta side of things, it how do I want to say it? It sort of cuts down on like past choice disappointment, right? If you didn't pick the right proficiencies for your gameplay in your campaign. This is one way. If you don't want to use some of the alternate rules about like switching up proficiencies more easily, this is a great feature to have to just deal with that in the moment. Oh crud, we don't have anyone who is proficient in animal handling, and we have a pack of angry, we have a, what was the feral hogs are attacking, and no one can deal
30
with
to
it.
50. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, 30, there it is. Yeah, we have 30 to 50 feral hogs. And so, you know, the rogue can take a long rest and pick that up and deal with the issue. Role-playing, obviously tons of fun. We're already introducing the idea that this rogue is interacting and interfacing and learning from and using the echoes and spirits of those that have died, which of course it's a rogue and it's D&D, so that we have killed. And it starts it off with a real fairly simple, like, you get proficiency, roleplay that as much or as little as you want, totally straightforward. I was just talking with some folks in my channel about this feature before I came over here for this interview. And we were talking about all the different ways that different DMs sort of manifest this. As written, obviously, you take a long rest, you pick a new proficiency. Yeah, that's it, right? That was a lot of choice paralysis for me. So I, last season in Rivals, and I think I might switch this up now, having talked to some of these other folks, but last season in Rivals, I just had a list, just like a table of all of the skills and all the tool proficiencies, and I just roll on it whenever we took a long rest, and like, whatever
fun.
that spirit wanted to give me, there it was.
Honestly, I think that sounds very fun. I also, I love to gratuitously bring comics into things, but a lot of my favorite sort of mutant powers and superpowers are the sort of the dial H for hero, or the Ben 10, or the rogue, or sync. I am going to borrow what you can do. I'm going to pick a little bit of this in various forms. And this is just a delicious way of bringing that into story.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we'll see with the 9th level feature, like, even more so with this subclass, but we'll get there. Some of the other things, though, that some other DMs that I was hanging out with were telling me about the way that they do this. My favorite one is from, actually, I think Fluffy Snowfall's in the chat right now. But the way that she runs the Phantom Rogue in her party is that she actually chooses the proficiency every day and rolls it into a narrative where she actually rolls on a table, from what she told me, she rolls on a table of, oh no, I'm mixing up two people. But anyway, you can pick a background, for example, and that gives you a little bit of story about the spirit that's giving you that proficiency, right? And then it gives that proficiency. So now you have more information about the echo. I'm getting confused with exactly how Fluffy does it. And then also I was chatting with Dallen of Wizards fame. And they both had similar approaches to this. So I'm just getting them all mixed up. But yeah, letting the DM do it, or incorporating more of the story of that person. Why was that person proficient in brewer's tools, right? Like, they were, and that just lets it be more narrative, if that is sort of your thing.
I think that's exactly my sort of thing. So I think that sounds fun as heck, because bringing in the story reasons for that, I think backgrounds is a really smart way to sort of work backwards to, like, all right, if you picked up somebody with brewer's tools, was that because they were an artisan? So, okay, now you have ideas about what kind of person that is, and whether or not you're sort of interacting with that. Like, you could run a campaign where you're just haunting your rogue with spirits who keep giving them the ability to do things, and they're not sure why, and you privately know why that's going to come up, but they're just like, fine, I guess animal handling, sure. I don't even like horses, that,
yeah.
And now I just want to do that.
Like horses. I was gonna say, that's there's a character right there.
The
yeah,
one-way
absolutely.
animal friendship.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said at the start, like, this is the example. It is full of roleplay and narrative possibilities and story possibilities, but also it is mechanical. It is more dice, higher numbers, right? And pretty, at least at this point, still pretty straightforward. So big fan.
All right, but that's not all you get when you pick up the subclass. The other 3rd level feature lets you not just flavor, but this one's delicious. Wails from the Grave. So, do you want to sum up what Wails from the Grave does for me? Because them buckets of dice.
Yeah, speaking of buckets of dice, so Wails from the Grave is probably the feature that convinced me, like, it was this has to be Kent's subclass. So Wails from the Grave, I'll read a little bit of it in a second, but the basic idea is that you can take another enemy within, I think it's 30 feet of the creature that you've just sneak attacked, right? So you do have to do all the things that are required to get sneak attack. But if you sneak attack somebody, you can pick another creature within 30 feet and roll half of your sneak attack dice again and do that much necrotic damage to them. So it's as if the wails of the spirits of the departed, which we've already established are sort of always around your character, are now working for you and not just teaching you things but adding to their ranks, I guess, by helping you kill more things. They're lonely. They want friends. Right, exactly. So yeah, so it's we could read the text, but that's the basic feel of it. Mechanically, it is half of your sneak attack dice rounded, or half of your sneak attack dice for your level rounded up. It's one of maybe 2 things that take half rounded up in any rulebook anywhere. The other one being Arcane Recovery for wizards. So we love a round up because it makes our odd levels for non-casters feel exciting. We don't get new levels of spells as a rogue, so we get this. And it's I'm trying to see if there's anything else in the. Oh, you can do it a number of times equal to your efficiency bonus. Fine, fair enough. Regain expended uses when you finish a long rest. That sounds right. I mean, it can, especially at high levels, can be a lot of damage. So maybe not at will.
So much potential there that you want to cap that a tiny bit. I know there was an older D&D Beyond video. We got to speak sometime back to Jeremy Crawford when this was in Unearthed Arcana, and he was talking about the theming of the version of the fandom they were evolving. And at that time, I think he was saying like the UA version had psychic damage, and they were thinking along the lines of a banshee whale. But I think even though it is necrotic damage, which makes sense to me, in the published version, I still love the idea of the banshee whale harming people around you, like as you're doing your ghostly sneak attack. Like, it's just extremely cool.
Absolutely. And as we'll see at the end of the feature list for the Phantom, it just continues to get cooler.
Absolutely. And I do also love that it's like, if you are a rogue who needs to like hurt people while not being right next to them, this is an extremely helpful I got you here and also you over there, that I don't need to go be at risk of an opportunity attack to maybe take you in along the way here.
I mean, that's definitely Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, what were you?
Because I think you're going to ask about what I was about to talk about. So go ahead.
I got excited for the next feature, but if you like, we don't have to move on to Wales yet. Yeah.
I was just really quickly going to say one of the other reasons I particularly like this now that I've played with it a bit is that as a rogue, you don't get extra attack for your action ever. And if you pick a subclass that relies heavily on your bonus action for other things, or if you're just the type of rogue that like disengages from everything every round, a second offhand attack with your bonus action is not always available to you. So this lets you have a little bit more, I mean, we're talking like real nitty gritty combat mechanics now, but if that's your thing, this lets you have a little bit more of a spread like some other like ranged fighters can have, or like, some fighters with maybe higher ACs or whatever. So that you can really spread the damage out a little bit more, which if your party is, there are combinations in which that is useful. That's all I wanted to say.
No, that's a great point. And then once you stick with those for a couple of levels as you grow in power in other ways, and then you get the tokens of the departed. The 9th level Phantom feature, I'm just going to read this part out because it's delicious. When a life ends in your presence, you're able to snatch a token from the departing soul, a sliver of its life essence that takes physical form. As a reaction, when a creature you can see dies within 30 feet of you, you can open your free hand and cause a tiny trinket to appear there. Not a bear, although it could be. A soul trinket. The DM determines the trinket's form or has you roll on the trinkets table in the player's handbook, which has some hilarious options to generate it. And you can redeem that soul trinket essentially to do various things. It's a little currency of power. Tell me a little bit about running with tokens of the dead.
Well, the first thing is that last sentence about the DM determining the form. Oops. Never did that. Sorry, Masood.
It's D&D. It's your table. That's right. Do what you want.
Yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. I love this feature. I love the mechanical effects of this feature, and I love the playing with, right, like holding these souls in your hand. It does definitely begin to. There is a darkness, right, about ghosts teaching you proficiencies and doing your dirty work and damaging people, right? There's a darkness to that, but this feels like this is a dark subclass. Okay, cool. I see you now. I got you. Before we even talk about what you can do with them, I do want to point out the way that this ability is worded says, first of all, it very much specifically says when a life ends in your presence, right? A creature within 30 feet dies, which means that you do not have to be the one doing the killing, which is important, right? Because then you don't have to fight with your party about kill shots, which is annoying. But the other thing is that it says, as a reaction, when a creature you can see dies within 30 feet of you, that means any creature, right? Creature is the broad term for a living thing that you are probably in this moment fighting. So Kent, at the end of season 10, may or may not have used tokens of the departed to create a soul trinket that contained the soul of the Demon Lord Graz'zt. Because the Demon Lord Graz'zt is a creature, and we killed him. There is a very good chance that that will be a real problem for Kent eventually, but that's a problem for future Kent.
That's an exciting problem. It's so full of delicious, messed up possibilities. Pictured is the wonderful Kent, of course. We had to pull that in.
There, yeah, hello. There's my boy. I do also.
What did you choose for it? Just for folks who might
I believe
not see.
it was his, I don't remember the name of his sword now, I can look it up, but he has that very iconic sort of wave-edged sword. So it was a little earring in the shape of the sword. Or actually, no, it was a little sword, and to further add insult to injury, when it was created, since it was created from a part of the soul of a demon lord, it was really hot. So Kent took a little bit of fire damage to bend it into like an arc so he could wear it as an earring.
Beautiful choice.
Yeah. Yep. I will also say, because I did see a couple of people mention this in chat, and this also is important. The wording of the ability says that a sliver of life essence takes physical form. So they're called soul trinkets. We talk a lot about it being the soul, but mechanically it does not stop you from revivifying or from returning that person to life. It doesn't, like, the wording is very specifically not that, right? So you can still revivify, presumably, even if the enemy does get revivified, or in this case, as with Graz'zt, Graz'zt will eventually reform in the abyss, but I'll still have that little piece of him.
See, and that presents to me exciting possibilities. If you want to decide that he feels a little weird about the missing sliver, or that he can sense it, that's an option. I'm just saying.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We also have a wonderful point coming in from the mods that constructs and undead are creatures. So even things that you might not expect to have life essence might have life essence to offer. And it looks like we had some raiders come in earlier. Thank you very much. Welcome, Dice and Dragons TV. So what can you do with your soul trinket? We have a couple of big options here.
Yeah, so there's 3 big options. One is that anytime you have even just one soul trinket on you, you have advantage on Constitution saves and death saves, which is very exciting and useful. So that's just a sort of passive ability that you have as long as you have a single soul trinket. You can also use your soul trinkets if you run out of Wails of the Departed, so you run out of that extra necrotic damage with your sneak attack. You can consume a soul trinket to use it again, right? So if you've burned through your proficiency number of times, but we're not done with the fight, burn a soul trinket, you get one more chance to do it. And then the last ability is interesting because it does, for this one, the soul trinket doesn't have to be on your person, which I kind of love and opens up all kinds of shenanigans. But anytime you have created a soul trinket, no matter where it is, you can cause that soul trinket to be destroyed, and you can ask one question to the spirit associated with the trinket. It's very narrow, right? Because that spirit appears to you. It can only speak a language that it knew in life. It only knows what it knew in life. It has no obligation to be truthful or to answer at all, right? It's all the speak with dead things. But also, we still use speak with dead, right? Like, it's still a useful thing, and what a fun RP thing to suddenly pull a spirit to you. So those are the 3 things that you start off being able to do with your soul trinkets.
Well, and I love that because while obviously this subclass can lend itself to very dark styles of storytelling, but it doesn't have to just be that. Right. I don't know if anyone watching has seen the show Pushing Daisies.
Yes.
Ned is absolutely being like, you get one question, let's do this. And he's a sweet, happy guy who wants you to eat pie. Yeah. He just happens to have like a kind of a death touch situation going on.
That show was gone before its time. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, when I created Kent, and because Kent also, I should mention, was created at 15th level because the rivals are demigods. So as I was sort of figuring out, how he got there, in my head it certainly was dark, but I am constitutionally incapable of staying too dark, particularly as a player. So, a lot of these things have become very silly, have become very tongue-in-cheek, have become very like sassy, hence the Grotz earring, right? Instead of just letting it be what it was. So yeah, absolutely. As much as the flavor text in the actual book may feel like one sort of style, do what you want, y'all. Make it as fun or as goofy or as serious or as whatever as you want. Just, the numbers and the mechanics are, what they are. But
they're going to support you in that style of play. And I do love that the write-up that I was reading a portion of earlier sort of gives you options of like, maybe you really lean into this, or maybe this other thing happened, or maybe it touched, like, it encourages you, I think, to think in terms of those possibilities. But let's talk about those you're practically demigod kind of levels, because there are two more features you can get to with your Phantom Rogue. I mean, I feel like all rogues have to be pretty jealous of Ghost Walk.
Right. Kent got to use this one to some fun effects last season, but Ghostwalk is well, I don't know if it's what it sounds like. It is to me, but that's because I know what it is. Maybe it's not so obvious. You gain a spectral form for 10 minutes. I believe it's 10 minutes. Yeah, for 10 minutes. You have a very slow flying speed. You're incorporeal, so you can move through solid objects. And attacks have disadvantage against you while you're in the form. You're not invisible, right? You are incorporeal, so that is kind of the same thing, but mechanically not necessarily. Yeah. So, I mean, already we in theory, probably, if we're playing a at least somewhat traditional rogue, have stealth modifiers through the roof. And now also we can literally go through the roof. So good times. Infiltration becomes a breeze.
Well, and if I haven't played a Phantom, but if I'm reading this correctly, I can still hurt you, but it is harder for you to hurt me. And that is a thing I love to hear as a rogue, right?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And that's 13th level, right? So, I mean, we're already talking, like, we are packing a punch as it is. So that might seem a little much because there aren't really drawbacks at lower levels, but by the time you're at 13, go for it.
And of course, there are limitations on this one as well. You can't just like go all the way through the solid earth without taking a little damage along the way, since you're going to be ending some turns inside that substance. Yeah, I feel like the roleplay possibility, it's a perfect fit as you're growing closer to death. Once again, to bring out the comic book hat, you're just Kitty Priding your way through this, but in a cool, dark way. And then you're on your way to Death's Friend.
Oh, this is the one that I'm excited for Kent to get because he's not there yet. I've been excited about all of them, but I have all the others, so.
At 17th level, your association with death has become so close that you gain the following benefits. When you use your Wails from the Grave, you can deal the necrotic damage to both the first, originally sneak attacked, and the second creature. And at the end of a long rest, you just get a soul trinket. Whose life essence is that made of? Don't ask questions. If you don't have any soul trinkets, as the spirits of the dread are drawn to you, you just get one. It's sweet. We talked about high level powers with, I think it was with B-Dave a little while back, because he's the person to talk to about that. But a lot of the highest level ones are sort of like free refill things where it's like, we want to make sure you can do your cool stuff. But yeah, Death's Friend. What are you gonna do once you get this one?
I mean, I'm gonna roll boatloads of sneak attack dice, right? At 17th level, let's do the math. At 17th level, that's 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17. That's 9d6 sneak attack normally. Half that and round up means I'm rolling another 5 for my Wails of the Departed, but I'm doing that extra 5 dice in 2 places. So one person who's 30 feet away is getting 5d6 of necrotic damage. The person I'm actually sneak attack now is having 14d6 of damage stacked on top of them. Woe betide them should you crit. Which I did last season and was the most glorious thing. We've been rolling using D&D Beyond's lovely virtual dice, and many of us had the sanguine dice turned on when this happened, and so rolling 28 gushy sanguine D6 on D&D Beyond was the highlight of my life.
Oh, that's beautiful. Just screen full of gross, squishy, delightful. I love them very much. But that sound sticks with you.
Yeah, yes it does. Yes it does. Yeah, so I mean this makes the Phantom one of the, I mean, I'm saying this and I'm pulling this statement out of the air because I haven't done the analysis or the math on it. But it feels to me like this definitely makes the Phantom one of the most concentrated damage dealing rogue archetypes, which is saying something because all rogues have an inordinate amount of sneak attack anyway, right? But this really lets you pack a punch in there. And make sure that you can do it at least once a fight, because as you mentioned, you get your soul trinkets back after every long, after every long rest. So at least once a day you can do this, or at least you can do this once a day, right? Once a day on top of your proficiency bonus. So that's a lot of damage.
It's an awful lot of damage. It's an awful lot of dice. And it has that beautiful, it doesn't lose, like, you never move away from the flavor of the subclass because the form of that damage is the wails of the dead surrounding the people that you're sneak attacking. And come on. That's just beautiful.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So do you have any advice for folks who are building a Phantom Rogue, whether they're optimizers, flavor people, anywhere in the middle? What are things to keep in mind as you're rolling up your Phantom?
Yeah, so a couple of things. If we're talking mechanics, you want to, the big thing here is that so much of the damage things about this and like the actual like combat abilities about this rely on your sneak attack happening. So you want to make sure that, particularly at these higher levels, which is sort of inevitable because your proficiency is up at 5, +5, +6. So it's going to happen anyway, but you want to make sure that you're hitting, right? So if you're looking for magic items and you don't care about them, being the wild, wondrous items, you might just want to look at straight up magical weapons, right? That just give you a bonus to make sure that you're hitting. As you're choosing your ability scores, if this is your thing, right? If combat mechanics are your thing, you're going to want to look at, like, presumably pumping your decks pretty early so that you've got that +5 just automatically as soon as you can. Because, like I said, the mechanical stuff for this subclass does largely rely on your sneak attack. Flavor-wise, I would just, the first thing I would say is I would know, because we've already talked about this, but I would know how dark is our Phantom, right? Are we really going like very creepy, like, every time the souls of the dead come back to harm them, it harms you because you remember the terrible things you've done, right? Or is it like, oh, I accidentally stepped on a grasshopper once and now that's, I grabbed a soul trinket because it was reflex and now it's attacking you, right? You could really go either way, but I would have an idea and make sure that you and your DM are on the same page about that too, because, a disconnect regardless of who thinks what could be odd, could be unpleasant at worst and just sort of confusing at best. What else? I mean, get creative with it, because a lot of these also are kind of open-ended things, right? Asking a question, basically getting a free speak with dead question. The proficiency thing, certainly those can be very sort of cut and dry, whatever, but there's so much opportunity for the flavor here. And I've also always found like the best and most interesting and often most creative uses of features come when you integrate the story and the narrative and the role play, because that's when your ideas and your mind open up to something other than what is exactly on the page, right? And I think this subclass does a great job of encouraging that.
I find very much the same way. Usually if I have an interesting mechanical idea, for me, it's generally because I chased a story thing through a loop and went, oh, it is just like Ned from Pushing Daisies, which means I could blah, 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 blah,
Yeah, exactly. What ideas can you pull from that to toss in?
Or you could do what a chat is apparently doing and decide that your particular flavor is the enormous aquatic mammal and it's whales of the dead, which I'm not going to stop you.
Saw that. I think I know who started that, and Rogue, I will.
I don't know.
Glare. Oh my goodness! Yes.
They have secrets, I'm sure. I don't know what languages
so
they know.
Good.
That's for you and your DM to figure out. But
I love it. An all Aquan campaign. I love it. I love it. Well, that's very good. That's very good.
Okay, we
Yeah.
have some great questions coming in as
Oh, great.
well, so please do send those across. But let's see, is there anything else about running them that you would want to share, or that because you've spent years DMing as well, that you know about running with rogues that might help players to make smart choices leaning in here?
Yeah, for DMs who have phantoms in your party, I don't think it matters what the final decision is, but I would make sure that you and your player are on the same page about the Whispers of the Dead. On the one hand, if you are sort of loosey-goosey about things, it may not matter. But on the other hand, that ability does have the potential of like, does it matter to you as a DM that they didn't choose it when they woke up, but that they waited until they found themselves in a situation and want to choose it then? Is that cool with you? Is that not cool with you? I know at my table which it would be. That's neither here nor there. What's important is that you and your player are on the same page about it, right?
Totally.
There are one of the reasons I love D&D is because it is an explicit rule system, right? So it says what you can do, and that's what you can do. And so there are these little pit holes, right? Like it is stated one very specific way, but for those of us who play a little bit more narratively and who like to really get who are more interested in fun stories than necessarily mechanical grittiness, that can cause a little bit of friction there because the instinct might be, oh my God, we need this skill. I have an ability that can give it to me. As long as your DM's cool with that, that's great. But I would say have that conversation. I would also say, it does require some housekeeping. D&D Beyond obviously helps immensely with that by allowing you to sort of tick boxes that show how many soul trinkets you have and how many Whales of the Departed you have left. But if you're not using digital character sheets, I guess this is a very niche thing to say to a group of people who are watching a stream on D&D Beyond's Twitch channel. But anyway, if you aren't using D&D Beyond sheets, that's right. Know that there is that added housekeeping that, other subclasses may not require of you. Trying to get other pitfalls, but it really is. I mean, as long as you and your DM are on the same page about the flavor and that one mechanic thing, it's also a pretty straightforward subclass, to be honest. It gives you lots of damage, gives you advantage on death saves, and makes you a little more flexible. It's another reason I like it is it's really quite straightforward, mechanically speaking.
And if you're a DM and you have a player who can walk through walls, try to remember that, but it'll be funny if you don't.
That's right. Absolutely. Just make very thick walls all the time.
But that's
Just
fun
every
because
building.
it's a challenge, right? Like it's in a bunker deep underground. Good luck.
Exactly.
All right, we have some wonderful questions coming in. Let's see. This is a flavor one. Sellsword Barrage asks, favorite ghost speakers in media and literature? This class reminds me of Klaus from Umbrella Academy.
I was just thinking of Klaus, actually, which in some ways, I mean, what's his brother's name? The ghost that he talks to? I can't remember his name.
5?
But
which one?
Oh, God. Yes, that sounds right. I know it's been too long and that new season's coming out. I'm gonna have to rewatch.
I'm sorry, Gerard wearing Gabriel Bach. I know this.
I know, right? We'll call 5 for now. 5 definitely is a very powerful ghost. But the way that Klaus can summon and has a connection to him and can get information from him and also use him in fights, absolutely. Ned in Pushing Daisies is a great one. There was another one that came to my mind and now it has flown away. Do you have any, Amy, while I try and remember this thing that I'm pulling out?
It's generally just something I love. We talked about it a bit because I love that Bard College of Spirits has a similar sort of vibe of picking up things from the beyond. Would love to see that team up. But I guess favorite ghost speakers in media, I'm probably just going to end up going comic book again because it's sort of the it's not actually the case, but like classic 80s and 90s Rogue, when she had absorbed someone's power, would occasionally be able to draw on the knowledge or ideas as well as fighting with the personalities of the people who were now hanging out in there. But tapping that as a resource is just a mechanic I never get tired of seeing in stories.
Oh yeah, that makes me think of like Now, I'm going to say a game, and I need to explain that I have never played it. I've just watched my partner play a ton of it. But this makes me think of the Persona system in Persona, well, in Persona 5 in particular, because that's what I watched him play. But you defeat these things and you capture, very Soul Trinket-esque, you capture them in masks that you can put on and gain their abilities. Obviously, mechanically, it's a little different, but it's the same sort of like I am learning and drawing power from those I have vanquished. And you said the College of Spirits Bard, which also makes me think of the Ancestral Guardian Barbarian, who also uses not ones that they have killed, but their ancestral spirits that protect them, protect their friends, give them other powers. There's that. Now that I'm thinking about it, there is enough material for a party of ghost speakers, which could be very cool.
Interacting would be very, very cool and very strange, because just imagine, like, depending on how far back that ancestor was, the rogue could have literally been present when that ancestor died. They could both be talking to the same person. Not
That's
awkward
cool.
at all.
That's cool. I love that. I'm just imagining the moment that they discover that now in the campaign. Very fun.
Like, they're just like, hush, Margaret. Wait, what? Shiny Stevie asks, roleplay wise, beginning with a rogue on level 1, would you prefer to flavor this rogue already with the theme of some kind of ghost speaker, or would you prefer to have the hard break from normal rogue picking pockets to talk to the dead, or even be one for some time? Those both sound great to me. Gonna weasel out
they
that
do
answer.
both sound great. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I have a definite answer to that, because for me anyway, every character that I create gets created with a different mindset. So if it's for something that's, I mean, obviously a one-off, if it's at level 1, it's not going to matter, right? But a shorter sort of campaign, then yeah, I might plan ahead, because there's that nice sort of through line for you, and you can sort of take it to completion very quickly and very easily. But if I'm doing sort of a home campaign, a longer open-ended campaign, I almost never pick my subclasses at level 1 unless I'm a cleric or whatever. I sort of do like to get a feel for the person and the personality before I commit to that. So either is great. I can talk a little bit about Kent, who obviously wasn't first level when I created him, but his connection to the dead and to the phantom abilities really actually comes more from his archaeology background. He is an archaeologist and a tomb explorer. We don't like the term grave robber here. A tomb explorer. And so he sort of found himself interacting with a lot of places that had very strong connections to the dead anyway. And he found himself delving into burial sites and ancient tombs and temples from death gods and things like that. And so that's where his sort of connection to it came. And that came predetermined by me because I was building him at 15th level. But, you know, that's the sort of thing that you can, even if you don't plan on it from the beginning. I took the archaeology background for funsies, but then you have the idea, oh, actually, we can link this and make it feel like it was from the beginning, even though we had to wait a little while to learn more.
I love that very much, and no pressure on you to ever go in any direction, but boy, would you be a fabulous guest lecturer at Lorehold College once we get Strixhaven in our hands.
Ooh,
in a few.
Yes. Not Kent. Kent would be I would love to play Kent as a guest lecturer. He'd be a nightmare. He would teach all the wrong things. He would say all the quiet parts out loud.
See, the students would never forget it. It would be their favorite
No, absolutely
day
not. I mean, that's his goal. I'm so excited to start off season 11. Kent has some real fun things ahead for him that I'm very excited about.
Oh, that's so good. Real quick, through a couple more of these before we have to let you go here. Eric Mind asks, and I'm not sure I know what I would say to this, but it's an interesting question. With Ghost Walk and Ghost Whales, how would that be affected by a cleric of the opposite alignment?
Interesting. So the easy answer, which I'll start out with, is mechanically it doesn't, right? If we're talking purely rules as written, the life slivers that you're using in the tokens and all of that, they are not creatures, so they can't be turned by turn undead because they're not undead, right? So that is what it is. The more interesting answer, and I imagine the question that you were actually asking, is in terms of flavor, and I think I would have a blast with that. I think I would have a great time having, the cleric sort of always giving a little bit of the side eye when the spirit, and for a multitude of reasons, because the undead, which is maybe what they consider the spirits, are bad and unnatural, right? Or just because like the spirits should be left to rest. It's not about being undead or not. It's just like, please leave them be in their eternal rest, right? There's so many different reasons. And I think that could be really fun interplay. Caveat. That is the kind of thing that you should absolutely have session 0 conversations about with your party, right? Because that could very quickly lead from fun RP to inter-party PvP, whatever. And some tables are fine with that. I loathe it. I find it both uncomfortable and also narratively just like a dead end. So yeah, I would be real careful about it. There is absolutely a way to do it where everyone's on the same page and it's fun and it's like a little, like an on-running joke. And the cleric and the rogue can take it very seriously, right? But it can be a joke to the players. But it is super important that you sort of set those guidelines down early before it turns into, it goes from jokey to, ow, you just elbowed me really hard.
Absolutely. Anytime you make a choice that involves disliking or reacting negatively to something about another character, if both people are kind of on board in a buddy cop, we have like, shucks, we nudge each other away. It can be fun, but it's a huge potential source of like, now I feel like a bummer every time I do my thing, and we're a team, So
exactly right. Exactly right.
You mentioned that.
And it occurs to me, we could swap it. Swap it good.
Yeah.
We can swap it. I assumed that the rogue was on the neutral to evil side of things and the cleric was on the neutral good. But what if we flip it? What if the rogue is the good character and feels some kind of way about disturbing these spirits and the cleric is like, no, more, do it. I love it. Get the power. Like, that's also a super fun thing to do, right? So if we're talking about opposing quote unquote alignments, which is a whole other conversation. But anyway, that could be super fun. Like the cleric is the enabler.
Like, you know what I would do with that power? And the rogue is just like, I don't know. That's not polite. Like, they're just gonna teach you how to use brewer's tools and then they get to do their thing,
Exactly. Yeah, so lots of opportunities there.
Any final thoughts or other questions that we didn't get to that you want to talk about for the Phantom Rogue today?
I think I had a couple of questions that folks passed on to me, but we ended up talking about most of them. Let me see. Yeah, we talked about that. There was someone did ask me about if you really want to go the narrative role-playing route, particularly with the soul trinkets, where does my inspiration for soul trinkets come from? And for me, it's always just pulling the one big thing that you immediately recognize about the enemy. So with Grotst, it was the sword. With a troll, maybe it's one of their claws. It's just something that to you represents it. And it can be as weird or whatever as you want. And the more you know about the creature that you're taking it from, the more options you have. Obviously, I love a random table. So the feature as written suggests using the trinkets table in the player's handbook. I will also say, if you have access to other books, there are a lot of trinket tables in a lot of other books. Ravenloft has, Van Richten's Guide has the creepy trinkets. I believe Wild Beyond the Witchlight has fey trinkets. So there are a bunch of trinket tables that you could play with depending on the flavor of your campaign. So don't feel like, not that the player's handbook one isn't hilarious, but if you really want a specific feel for it, go looking because there's a bunch of options out there.
Heck yeah. So the player's handbook one could get you anything from an old chess piece made of glass to an enormous scale, perhaps from a dragon, to the deed for a parcel of land in a realm unknown to you, which would be a very interesting soul trinket.
That would be excellent. That one. I want
but
that one.
But you have to destroy it eventually to do something.
Right. Oh, no. Yes. Do I keep my castle or do I survive this fight? Or maybe more to the point, do my friends survive this fight?
Well, the possibilities are so much fun. Thank you so much for talking us through the Phantom Rogue today. And would you tell the people where they can find you for maybe some more Kent action, but even more importantly, as you are co-DMing a certain show coming back?
Yes, indeed. So where can you find me? First, the most central place is just to follow me on Twitter. I'm at DM Jazzy Hands on Twitter and always tweet about whatever's going on there. If you want to find me streaming, this Sunday, we'll start with this Sunday because we've been talking about Rivals this whole time. This Sunday is the season 11 premiere of Rivals of Waterdeep, episode 101 for the crew. I think it's my episode 21 because I joined late. But so come hang out with us. We start at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/Rivals of Waterdeep. And Urban Bohemian Brian Gray and I will be co-DMing this season, which I'm very excited about. So that's on Sundays. Wednesdays, you can find me GMing Into the Motherlands over on Cypher of Tears Twitch channel at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific every week. We have 2 more episodes in this season. Things are getting tense, but that's another great crew. And we, I have to say, like, we're building something really cool over there. So come check us out the next 2 Wednesday nights at 7 Eastern on twitch.tv/Cypher of Tier. And then I have a D&D podcast. We just had our 4th anniversary. You can check us out. We're called The Last Refuge, a D&D podcast. We're at DND Last Refuge on Twitter. And we're going strong over there. So you can check that out. And then, other little things, just follow me on Twitter. Oh, and I should say also, I do stream on my channel, twitch.tv/DMJazzyHands. In fact, I will be running back over there as soon as we're done to play more of one of your favorite games and mine, Mass Effect. We're making our way through that series. So you can find me Tuesdays and Thursdays on my channel.
And Mass Effect, like, there were so many ways that for me to just be distracted for this entire hour. So
we did so good, though, because that's true for both of us. We did good.
This was so much fun. Thank you so much for coming by the channel. We will hope to talk to you again and break all the legs this weekend and throughout your streaming. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time on
Yes,
D&D
absolutely.
Beyond.
Thanks for having me. Bye, everybody.
It's D&D.